Hey guys, there's been some discussion recently about physical tanks and like who's the best on the block. So I decided to go on the JP server and we're gonna do some comparisons against the Genie trial. This is the next upcoming trial that hits really hard for physically. It's a pretty short trial unlike Assurer, so it's all about that short-term survival as you can get preferably an all mission clear in. So we're going to be directly comparing on this trial Gabranth, Snow, Gladiolus, and then we're gonna try Aphmau, a future tank, just for the sake of it, because I have all these tanks. Now this is the Japanese server, so we don't have King Behemy for me to directly compare King Behemy, but I'm gonna do my best to simulate using King Behemy, using units with the same kind of buffs, but I'm gonna use only the mitigations that King Behemy would have, because that's kind of the big discussion here is like mitigation and all that. So we're gonna do it with this, and we're gonna do the best we can, and we're gonna see how it goes. Now, this is only for comparing tanking. I'm not really worried about the DPS. This is strictly a tank test. So let's go ahead and get into the Scorn of Genies hard mode. The missions are 8 turns or less and 5 units or less. We're going to try to simulate an all mission clear. So we're going to use a 5-man team. If you're using a 6-man team, keep in mind your tank would take extra damage because that's one extra person to cover. But we're going to pretend like we're going for an all mission clear. So we're going to do an 8-turn fight with 5 units or less. Now we're going to be using lightning on every clear. She's going to be the provoker for the magic damage. You need someone other than your tank. Well, you don't technically need, but you kind of do, because you don't want your tank gearing for resistance. That'll lower their bulk a lot. So someone else wants to provoke the magic damage. For this clear, that will be lightning. And actually, let me put her in slot 1, because we need to, you'll see why when we get in there. But anyway, for every clear, lightning is going to be our provoker with fire, wind, and dark resist. We gave her a provoke. We're going to active provoke as well. She's going to be the support unit. The rest of the team, they would be the DPS units. You'd be using something like, Realm and double Physalis. We wouldn't bring Lunafray. We'd bring a friend Physalis. And you'd use Realm and Lightning to chain. You'd cap with the double Physalis, and you go for a speed clear. Kugel has a great example of doing a 5-man speed clear. So we're going to kind of pretend like this is the way we're doing it. And then there's the tank. So because the way this trial works, because it's such a really tight speed limit for the mission, we don't really have actions for the DPS units to be helping out the tank. That's why it's a really big deal for the tank to be a one-man army that stands alone with no help from the party and gets it all done by themselves. That's kind of like the big hang-up here. If you, for example, dropped Realm and added a healer, you would obviously do a way slower clear, but then your tank has way less pressure on them. And someone like, Behemy or, Snow, Gladiolus, etc., they can do it easier because they've got more support. But the thing is, if you're going for an all-mission clear, you don't really have the actions to be helping out your tank. They've got to kind of be self-sufficient. So we're going to start with Gabranth, and then we'll do some other tanks for comparisons. So we're going to start in the shift form, auto buffing, auto protect, etc. Then we're going to the base form. Now, one disclaimer, mine is EX2 on the JP server. That does give him JP's EX2 buffs, so he will be slightly stronger. There's nothing I can do about that. I can't turn those buffs off. I've just got to, just keep in mind, the JP Gabranth will be slightly tankier than the global Gabranth unless we get the EX2 buffs by the time this trial arrives. So here's the build we're using, 43,000 HP, 4,200 defense, and we've given him some auto-sustain. We've given him Pure Lotus for health regen. We've given him Phoenix Synergy for 5k health a turn. This is going to help him stay alive long enough for us to finish the fight. If on global you've got Snow Bear, that's a great option. If you've got Mechanical Heart from the Nier collaboration, that's a great option for self-sustain. I have neither of these in the JP server. Snow Bear doesn't exist. It's global exclusive, and I do not have any 9S's to do Mechanical Heart. Actually, it's from a different unit, the 2B, or one of the Nier units gives Mechanical Heart. In any case, I don't have it on JP, so I can't use that. I've got to use the weaker Pure Lotus instead. So let's go ahead and see if Gabranth can self-sustain for 8 turns without help from the party. Now, I already know he can, but we're going to see it in action. So every turn, well, not every turn. On turn 1, we're going to provoke with lightning. The rest of the units, they would be setting up for damage. They'd be, doing buffs. They'd be chaining, dealing damage to the boss. But again, this is about tanks, not about doing the DPS. So we're going to focus on tanking. So we're going to shift Gabranth. And on turn 1, we're going to cover, personal mitigate. This is a 75% personal mitigation buff, which he has to cast every turn. And we're going to use his Magnus for 80% physical mitigation. This is because we don't have as good defense buff up yet. So we're using the Magnus to start off the fight to take a little bit less damage here. So he's going to take very low damage with all his Magnuses up. Of course, he can only do that 3 times in the fight. That is one of the 3. So the rest of the team, again, they would be chaining, supporting. Lightning would be support chaining with Realm. And then we'd be capping with Facelesses, etc. But we're not really doing that. We're just surviving here. So now Gabranth is going to mitigate. We're now going to do his big 250% defense buff. And we're going to do his 45% physical mitigation to take a little bit less damage. And then he regenerates a little bit. And he's going to take some hits here. He's going to take more damage. His Magnus is no longer up. The damage will increase quite a bit. But he is still mitigating most of it. And then he is, as you see, healing a lot of it back. Alright, but he is slowly dying, over time. Now we're going to go ahead and personal mitigate. We're going to use another charge of his Magnus right here. So we can hopefully take less damage and then regenerate more health back up. Try to survive a little bit. So this is a Magnus turn, lower damage. Very low damage when the Magnus is up. Alright. Now we're going to, let's see, we're going to go ahead and mitigate and refresh cover. Now he's definitely going to take a lot more damage this turn because he has pretty much no cooldowns up anymore. But hopefully he shouldn't die. He's regenerated a lot of health back at this point. Okay, looking good. Alright, so we're going to now mitigate and trying to think. I have 1 charge of Magnus remaining. I would kind of like to regenerate a little bit of health, but yeah, let's go ahead and mitigate. Let's use another charge of the Magnus here. And just survive. We only need to survive like 6 turns. Or 7 turns. Because the last turn he can die on and we don't really care. Alright, so the Magnus is now gone on Gabranth. Alright, also we've now lost his defense buff. So he's going to take a lot more damage this turn. Let's go ahead and let me look. Alright, he's got 1 more turn of physical mitigation. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to use his better defense buff. That is a provoke, but because Lightning's higher in the party, it's going to override Gabranth's provoke. Okay, very painful, very painful. But it's turn 6. We're almost done at this point. We're in the home stretch. So now Gabranth is going to mitigate and that. And we will do this. And now Gabranth is probably going to die here. He has no more cooldowns. He's out of good buffs. But it is turn 7. Oh, he didn't even die. There it is. Turn 7. Okay, so here is turn 8, the last turn of the all-turn mission. So Gabranth, with no support from the party whatsoever, has successfully solo tanked 8 turns. And even if he did die in that last turn, it wouldn't have mattered. And the party gave him no support whatsoever. Completely self-sufficient the entire way through. He tanked it all. Now it is turn 8. Assuming you're doing an all-mission clear, the fight is now over. If you're not doing an all-mission clear, then you can, for example, you don't got to worry about it. You could have, dropped Realm, gone for a way slower clear, added a buffer, added a healer, and then then Gabranth could have survived, 25 turns. It wouldn't have mattered, because we're not going for an all-mission clear. But now let's go ahead and try out another tank, and we'll do some comparisons. So I will see you guys in a second while I swap some things around. Alright guys, next up we're going to be trying out Snow for tanking the Genies. Now he's probably going to be the easiest one, with the disclaimer that you're going to need to fill his LB gauge. Now there's 2 ways to do this. For one thing, you can do the more RNG way, but the less reliant on party support, which is gear the shift form in 1000% fill rate, as I've done. We've got 1000% fill rate, Call of the Wild, the paintbrush, etc. And you want to try to get his LB gauge filled on turn 1 or filled enough to use his mitigation, which is 48 crystals, by getting some luck on drops from turn 1 chaining. And then, and then we're going to shift to the base form, and then you would shift to the shift form before you chain each turn, but don't stay there, and you would shift back and stay in the base form for the whole fight, but you would shift always before you chain, so the drops you get go with this 1000% fill rate. It makes getting his LB sustained a little bit easier. Other than that, he's got, with my gear, 41k HP, 4500 defense, and here we go. Now I am using Aphmau's card because I don't have Snow's card on the JP server, and they're pretty much the same thing. Unfortunately, the cards on the JP server are random. I never got Snow's card. So there we go. Now he counterattacks self-healing on his own, so we don't really need things like Pure Lotus and Phoenix Energy on Snow. Now I'm going to be using Realm to keep his LB gauge filled because we're not using Chaining, but there you go. So let's go ahead and see if Snow tanks all 8 turns just fine. Now I'm pretty sure he will. I haven't actually done Snow in a clear yet for this, but I already know he's going to do just fine. So we're going to use Realm to just fill LB gauge. Do that. We're going to guard these. We're going to provoke with lightning. And there we go. So Snow is going to mitigate and cover. Now we've only got 30% physical mitigate right now because of auto protect, but now he has 90% mitigation up, so it should be fine. Actually, Snow gets hit really hard without his good mitigation. Yeah, Snow has lower cover mitigation, which is pretty painful, and big ouch. That was more than I expected, I gotta be honest. Let's go ahead and physical mitt now, and there's not much else to do, so we will do this. Realm will fill LB gauge twice. And, let's see, we just repeat these. So Snow is taking more than I expected. Okay, well, ouch. Let's now go ahead and keep Snow's LB gauge filled. We will do this and this. And hopefully Snow survives this whole fight. A little dangerous here. Alright, let's use Snow's ATB buff for a bigger buff, and we will just keep going. Technically, he's still alive with no support, other than Realm, but like I said, we could be swapping him. We could be swapping him every turn with the chaining drops. So we're going to mitigate, and how long does his mitigation last? Physical mitigation? 4 turns, he should be fine. So we'll do this. Alright, and we're going to guard next turn on Snow, assuming he still survives. Snow is getting hit so hard. Oh my god, he's got so much defense too. 6,000 defense. He's got a 90% mid up. Ugh. So we're gonna guard him. And it's turn 6, so he's still surviving. He's still surviving. He has not died yet. Although he has been you know, needing his good crystal or good mitigation drops. So we're going to 90% mid again, and we will put up physical mid, and we will just keep going. So this is turn 7, so even if he died here, he'd be fine. So let's go ahead and... Okay, so Snow tanked it. That seemed a little riskier than Gabranth, which I'm surprised at. I'm really surprised. Like, my Snow is EX2 with his STMR. He's got, like, he's door potted and all. Like, he is as well as I can gear him. I don't know. That's 90% mid. Wow. Okay. So anyway, there was Snow tanking it. 8 turns. Turn 8. At this point, we would now have 1. With no support from the party, except for LB Phil. Now, LB Phil is the big headache with Snow. Now again, you know, you could have swapped him and relied on luck with the crystal drops, 1000% fill rate. But we used Realm for easy fill, which made it, there we go. But he did still technically need a little bit of help from crystal drops, whereas Gabranth needed absolutely nothing at all. So let's go ahead and try another tank. See you guys in a moment. Alright guys, next up we're going to try Gladiolus Neovision's Awakening. Now mine is only EX1, so you know we're doing the best we can. His build is going to be shift form for auto buffing, and then base form he's going to be having 47,000 HP, 4,000 defense, and then he's got some Phoenix Energy and Pure Lotus for regeneration. And again, I don't have Snow's card, which would be better on him, but we're using Aphmau's instead. So there we go. So Gladiolus is one of those units where he's really, really bulky, but he actually wants party support as well. He's going to have to do cover and personal mitigation every single turn, which means he's not going to have time to ever cast his good physical mitigation. So he's only going to have 30% physical mit from auto protect. So we're going to see how this works. It may or may not work fine. We're going to find out. I've actually never used Gladiolus, and I leveled him up and stat potted him specifically for this. Alright, one sec. Let me check one thing. Alright, yes. Okay. So we've now got auto protect. We go to the base form. So every single turn, we're going to do his special Neovision's cover and his mitigation. That's all he can do every single turn. We're going to provoke, and the rest of the team is, again, they would be simulating dealing damage. Alright, so how much damage does Gladiolus take? Oh, he takes so much damage. Oh, it hurts. Oh, and he counterattacks. Oh my god. I do not want to sit here for 8 turns while he counterattacks a lot. He didn't counterattack that much. Okay, that was a really bad turn. Maybe that was just bad luck. Let's try again. Okay. Oh, he's getting hit so hard. Oh, he's getting hit so hard. I don't know if Gladiolus can solo tank this with no help. I don't know. Uh-oh. Is there any way that I could fit in better physical mitigation? Oh, he's so dead this turn. He's so dead this turn. Not really. Not without help from the party, like Golem or something. Okay, let's see if Gabranth can take this. Did not work. Okay, now mine is only EX1. EX2 would be a little bit better, but not that much better. Truth be told, Gladiolus did not really work without party support. Now we could have used some kind of buff from the party. Let's try that. What could I have? How could I have improved that without using the party? I mean, he's maxed on defense. He's maxed on HP. He's got. Is there something I could have done? But he's geared really well. I mean, he's got STMRs in almost every slot, or most slots. STMR. Parameter reward, best helm in the game, STMR, STM. Yeah, he's got like. I don't think I can make him any bulkier than I've already done. I don't know. Let's just get an idea of what it would look like if we had Golem for Gabranth. Okay, so we know Gabranth. I keep saying Gabranth. I'm sorry. So we know that Gladiolus, with really well gear at EX1, did not self-sustain that fight. Let's try it with. I'm equipping a Behemy synergy on people, by the way, if you're wondering what I'm doing for Esper Gauge every turn. Let's see if with Golem, he tanks it fine. All right, let's try this again. Let's see the comparison of when we're giving him 70% physical mit instead of 30% physical mit from auto protect. All right. So to the base form, and we mitigate and cover every turn. and we're gonna Golem every turn as well. And let's see the difference here with Golem. Okay, okay. So Golem versus not Golem is a tremendous difference. That was a really big deal. Let's go a few more turns. We're not gonna go the whole 8 turns because he counterattacks, and yeah, I didn't even realize Gladiolus had counterattacks, and I was looking forward to him on Global. But now that I know he's gonna be Charlotte 2.0, I will not be using him on Global because I can't stand tanks with counterattacks. I hate them. I hate any tank with a counterattack. A damage-dealing counterattack. Counterattacks like Behemy that, fills your party's mana and all that, that's great. But this pointless, I'm dealing you 1 damage. What is the point of that? Why did developers ever in their right mind think this was cool? Let's make our tank hit the boss for 2 damage. That is so strong. I hate counterattacks. I summon them. Anyway, this is the last turn we're going to do. So as we can see, if we're using Golem every turn, Gladiolus absolutely easily tanks this. But then we're using an extra party slot, which is what we're trying to avoid. Just like, all the other tanks, if you're adding 2 party slots to do the job of 1 party slot, it's I don't like that. I really don't. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and stop if I say Gladiolus, his name is Gladiolus, he's not Gabranth. Okay, if I say, whatever, the Gladiolus test is done. So my initial really quick confirmation says that he, with no help from the party, he was unable to tank it at EX1 with my gear. Maybe at like EX2, EX3, and better gear, he could have done it. I feel like my gear was pretty strong on him. I even used like Snow's STMR, I used Gabranth's STMR in him. I used Aphmau's car, so I gave him every advantage I possibly could. I stat potted him, I door potted him, I leveled all his relevant skills. He is as far as I can personally make him, he's got the tanking going on. Like he's door potted, he's stat potted. I went all in on him just for a test, and I'll probably never use him again. So there go all my pots. Rip. But anyway, let's try some other tanks. Be right back. Alright guys, next up we're going to be trying Aphmau. She is a physical tank in the future. Her gimmick is she's a physical tank that also does really powerful breaks. She's got some fire and earth support for the party as well. But the big thing is she's a physical tank with breaks. That's like her big selling point. She also has preemptive cover like Behemy and C-Card in the future. But let's give her a try and see if she tanks it completely self-sufficiently. So base form, we're going to gear her with some auto buffing. There we go. Shift form, we've geared her with 4,700 defense, 36,000 HP. A little bit lower on the stats, but and we gave her Phoenix Synergy for healing. So this is the best I could do for her. As you see, she is door potted and all, so fair comparison all around. Let's see, and oh yeah. The best I could do is, 390 HP, 370% defense, 300% true double hand with her own card. There we go. We got Snow's STMR. So let's give it a go and see if she can tank this without support. I don't know, actually. I have not done it with Aphmau yet. So far, the only one that has done it without support is Gabranth and Snow. Yes, Snow did. Alright, so we're going to shift on turn 1, and we're going to use her to cover, provoke, and mitigate. We're going to guard the rest of the party, and we're going to just provoke with lightning. Now, Aphmau's mitigation is a provoke, but because she's lower in the party order than lightning, lightning's provoke takes over. Alright, she got hit really hard, but thankfully Aphmau can then just guard for 3 more turns. She's only got to actually cast her skills once per 4 turns. So we can guard most turns. Hopefully this is enough to survive here, because she is getting hit pretty hard, and Phoenix Synergy is only healing her by 5k a turn. I'm a little concerned here. This is not looking like the best without any kind of help. Let's go ahead and let's keep going. Let's keep going. Let's see. Oh my. Uh-oh. Danger! Danger! I'm pretty sure she's going to die here. Now, I could take a moment to waste a turn on, like, Luna Freya to summon, like, Lakshmi to heal her. I could, like, drop an elixir with someone. You know, Lightning could do something. So there are ways, like, to make your tank survive, but, you know, if we're using every single action of the DPS units to deal damage, to get that 8-turn mission, we don't really have the spare time to be helping out the tank, which is what we're trying to avoid. We've still got one more turn on all our buffs. We don't need to cast any buffs again, so we can keep guarding. But I think this is going to be the end of Aphmau right here. I think. Unfortunately, it was. So Aphmau lasted 4 turns, and then she died without support. That's actually... I thought she'd be doing better. I gotta be honest. This is actually enlightening to me to learn what tanks can and cannot do. I'm glad I'm doing these tests. Yeah. So Aphmau wasn't able to self-sustain the way Gabranth and technically Snow could. Okay, now let's try to figure out someone to simulate Behemy the best I possibly can. So let me look up his numbers and see who is the closest comparison. So we'll be back in a moment. Alright guys, now we're going to do a comparison as best I can as if we're using King Behemy. So King Behemy's cover mitigation is 70% at the lowest value, which is, you know, worst case scenario. We're going to be using Gabranth because Gabranth also has 70% cover mitigation. So that's the most direct comparison I can use. Behemy has a Magnus of 90% general mitigation for 2 turns we can use in the fight. So we're going to use Dark Knight Cecil to give 90% general mitigation to Gabranth for the first 2 turns to simulate as if we were doing Behemy with Magnus on turn 1. We're going to be using Shoreline Fina and Daisy to provide 50% general mitigation after that, which is all that King Behemy can do after the first 2 turns. And we're going to use Snow to provide a 250 defense buff and a 50% physical mitigation, which is also things King Behemy can use. Now, I know King Behemy does have access to a 300% defense buff, but I had no really good way to fit an exact comparison. So this is the closest we can do. And as far as stats go, the best I could do was a Gabranth with 43k HP, 42,000 or 4,200 defense. Now I know King Behemy can get approximately 5,000 defense at EX2 with his STMR. So at the high end, Behemy will be a little bit tankier. But again, this is the best I can do at the JP server. So we've got identical cover mitigation, identical general mitigation for both the 90 and the 50 on the turns Behemy could do. We've got 50% physical mitigation that he would have, and a 250 defense buff. And we gave him Pure Lotus and Phoenix Energy to simulate self-healing. And again, I do realize that Snow Bear is better at self-healing on Global. I can't use that on JP. I don't have it, and I don't have Mechanical Heart. So there we go. And then Shift Form is some auto buffing. That's not well, I'm glad I checked that. It's not a auto buffing. So Shift Form is using Miracle Shoes. And these are kind of irrelevant because we're actually using better buffs anyway, but there it is, just for the sake of comparison. Let's see how a comparatively King Behemy would do on this fight. Okay, so to start off, we would have some auto buffing, which is not super important. And we would shift over here. So let's use Rallying Cry just to fill Dark Cecil's LB gauge. And Dark Cecil will give 90% general mitigation to Gabranth for this turn. It also heals, which means we're actually going to be healing Gabranth on turn 2, which is a little bit cheating, but it's fine. Alright, so Gabranth is going to just, let's see, cover. And we're not going to use anything except cover. Okay, so normally Behemy would be doing like cover, mitigation, and all that. But we're doing all that externally, so we're just going to cover with his 70% cover mitigation, which is the same thing that Behemy's cover mitigation averages out to. And we're going to do 50% physical mit with Snow. And then, of course, Lightning covers all the magic stuff. So this turn, 250 defense, 50% physical, 90% general mit is going to take nothing. Like, basically nothing. Yes. So Behemy's 90% mit lasts for 2 turns. So we're going to do it again. Let's go ahead and fill LB gauge on Dark Cecil so he can 90% general mitigate on Gabranth. Now we're going to go ahead and refresh cover because Behemy would want to do his cover on this turn so he could guard the next few turns. And we'll just keep these buffs active. So again, turn 2, Behemy would have 90% general mitigation, which is a really big deal. Okay, at this point, Behemy's general mitigation would have worn off his 90%. Now he would be doing 50% general mitigation, which we're applying with Shoreline Fiend as LB. And we could guard Behemy on turn 3. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Dark Cecil, you're done. We're keeping physical mitigation up always. So turns 3, 4, and 5, we could guard on Behemy. And it's taking a little bit more damage, and he is healing a little bit with Phoenix Energy and Regeneration. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and do LB fill so we can refresh Shoreline Fiend as LB when we would need it. So, let's see, so we covered on 2, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we don't need to do anything with Behemy until turn 6. We could just guard him every turn until turn 6. And while guarding, he's got an effective 75% mitigation. The problem is when we have to stop guarding. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and keep this going. So we would still have one more turn of mitigation on Behemy, so we could continue this. I'm pretty sure his mitigation lasts for, 4 turns. Okay, so at this point, Behemy's buffs would have worn off. We have to recast his buffs. So Behemy would stop guarding, he would recast, cover, general mitigation, and technically, truth be told, he would only have 40% physical mitigation on this turn because his good physical mit is in this shift form. But because we're using a slightly weaker, lower defense, Behemy can get higher defense than Gabranth. We're gonna cheat and give him 50% physical mitigation anyway, and we're gonna give him 50% general mit, which he would be reapplying this turn. So this is with not guarding, only 50% general and 50% physical. How would he do? There it is. There it is. So that's kind of the rub with King Behemy. So I mean, I know this wasn't an exact one-to-one comparison, but that was as close as I possibly could get to King Behemy. So yeah, turn 1 and 2, he would have 50% or 90% general mit. He's totally fine. Turns 3, 4, and 5, he could spend guarding, which would be taking no damage, which is totally fine. But then when turn 6 comes around and he's got to refresh his buffs, he can't guard. The Magnus is gone. Only 50% general mit and 50% physical mit is not quite cutting it for this trial. This trial is incredibly painful. He would die on turn 6. Now, if you're able to finish the fight in 7 turns, it is turn 7, so technically we're almost to the point where we could finish the fight out. If you can finish the fight on turn 7, this would be fine. If your DPS is strong enough to finish a turn early, this would be good. But of course, if your DPS is not good enough, and you would have to go one more turn, then after you finish turn 7, the fight's not over yet. Turn 8, yeah, goodbye. So there is some comparisons on all the Why is it? That was weird. Just sat there for like 30 seconds when we were all dead, just wasn't doing anything. I don't know. That was weird. Anyway, so there's some comparisons for the tanks. Come on, get out of here, jeez. I actually don't see the game over screen very often. So there's comparisons for the tanks. So brief summary. Grand prize winner was Gabranth. Gabranth tanked was like a boss. He was never in any risk of dying. He was self-sufficient all the way through from turn 1 through turn 8. He had no help from the party whatsoever. He tanked everything fine. He self-sustained. He was never in any real danger of dying. I would rank the second best as Snow. Snow also tanked this all 8 turns, never died. He felt a lot more risky. He dropped really low, and we did have to technically fill his LB gauge, which you can do that without help. It's tricky and challenging, but it can be done. Or you could use some support from the team to fill him up. Gladiolus did not work. Unfortunately, he died on turn 3 or 4. He did not solo tank this without any help. Aphmau didn't either. I was shocked at Aphmau. I thought she would. She did not tank this. And based on my simulations, King Behemy would have died on turn 6. And if you're winning on turn 7, 1 turn quicker than the mission, that's not a problem. That's fine. Totally fine to die on turn 6 because your team is still alive. Your team finishes out on turn 7. If your team needs all 8 turns to get that victory in, then dying on turn 7 was a big problem. And again, for all these comparisons, you absolutely could have used a turn on your DPS to help out. You could have taken a turn off and used Golem on a turn. You could have cast Re-Raise on your tank. You could have used an Elixir. You could have used Lakshmi. But I wanted to do a comparison of allowing your DPS units every single action to focus exclusively on dealing damage and fighting that 8-turn mission. That 8-turn mission is very challenging to get on this trial, especially with 5 units. So, if you're struggling, you could bring a 6th unit, you could bring a dedicated support, you could do a slower clear, you could forget the missions, and it's fine. But when we're talking at the absolute top end, only going for all missions at the same time, based on my best comparisons, it seems like Gabranth and then Snow are the 2 picks, and Gladiolus, Aphmau, and Behemy are not going to really be able to completely self-sustain for 8 turns with no support from the team at all. Hopefully this has been informative. I will see you guys later.